on. So what we're kind of dealing with a lot of this in kind of what's going on in our world is that kids like to have a sense of control of what's going on in their day. They like to have routine. They like to be in their routines. The sensory system is something that plays a huge part in eating and picky eating. That's something we talk a lot in our picky class about. And that's something I'm going to give you some strategies tonight to work with your kid on making sure that they're comfortable and that their sensory system is comfortable with what they're being presented to eat, what they're eating, and then how they're eating. There's also reflux for some kids can be a factor. This is a lot with kids who were born early, might have some reflux or kind of remember having reflux when they were little. So that can kind of add to some anxiety when eating. Positioning in your chair, every time I say that, I am very aware that I'm probably slouching. But positioning in your chair for toddlers is really important because they like to have their feet grounded. So for some kids, that can make a big difference in how they are comfortable eating. So you might want to, as I readjust in my chair, just take a look at your high chair and make sure that as far as positioning goes, that your baby or toddler or child, if they have a tray table on their high chair, that their arms aren't sitting on it like this. You want to make sure that they are comfortable and have room to move their hands and grab their food. You want to make sure that their feet are grounded if there's a way that they can put their feet on the edge of their chair or just get positioned in their chair. So these are just kind of the basics of starting of kind of setting everything up, which segues to my last bold point on here is setting up the meal. You want to set up your plate so that your child has at least one familiar, what I call safe food or gateway food. So if you're serving chicken tonight and you know your child, in our house, my toddler loves white rice or any rice really. So when we make chicken or vegetables or something that I'm not sure she's going to be into or something that she hasn't historically eaten, I'll make sure to put that safe food on the plate. So that safe food in a lot of cases might be a staple like rice, pasta, bread for a lot of kids, or whatever your child's safe food is. So setting up that meal. You're also going to just keep in mind as you're going about this that to give yourself some grace because in this season that we're all in, the factors that I just named, especially sense of control and routine, have been thrown off. If you look at some of the other points here, sleep and anxiety can play a big part in what your child chooses to eat. And there's, of course, psychology. Life factors is on there. So if you've just moved, like we have just moved to a new house, if your child has a new sibling, if you are in quarantine for, an international pandemic, say, then that's a life factor and your child will be picking up on that. So when you have those big changes in life and those transitions, you might see some differences in your child. You probably will see some differences in your child. And one of those might be that your child decides that they want to have a little bit more control over what they're eating. So how do we do that? Ooh, how do I'm trying to switch. There we go. So like I said, we're going to set up the meal with at least one safe food on the plate. How can you make meal times fun with this? And we are going to go over food in a minute. This is just the presentation of it. So you're going to give your child choices when you're setting up the meal. Get them involved in cooking. Kids have a sense of control and ownership when they are included. So when you're cooking dinner, have your kid cook with you. Have them do age appropriate things like, can you pour this teaspoon of cumin into the pot? Or can you put these green peppers in the bowl for mommy? Or have them get involved in some way. When you're setting up their plate, we're going to serve family style so that everyone has the same options available. And that just gives your child a way to see, okay, if mom eats those, they must be safe. If my brother or sister eats those, then, oh, they look like they're enjoying that. So we're going to serve family style. This also allows you to say, do you want a big scoop of rice or do you want a little scoop of rice? It gives your child a sense of control and helps them to feel like they have a say of what's going on their plate. Even though you're the one that decided what you're having for dinner tonight, they get to pick um, which piece of chicken do you want? Do you want, like I just said, a big scoop or a small scoop? Also, before you even get to that stage of serving family style, you can give them a choice of, do you want the blue plate, or do you want your Elmo fork or your bunny fork? And any sense of control that they have, you're giving that back to them to give them that sense of, okay, I chose this and I chose this and I'm the one that's in control of making these decisions. Even if they're not, you're giving them that feeling that they do have a say in what's happening during the mealtime, which can just make kids feel more comfortable. And also, if you know toddlers, you know that some personality types just like to do things, and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. And so if they have, if your child has a sense that I picked my fork, I picked my plate, I picked that I wanted milk instead of water, I picked my straw, I picked my cup, then they feel like they've already had a say in everything, so that you might be have more they might be more willing to try things at the table. So on this slide, you can see there are some ways to make your meals fun. So different containers. That white thing is a ramekin that you can put a side or something in. Sometimes it's fun for this just them to have their own little bowl or something special to eat out of. There's also silly straws. You'll see we had success this week with my daughter finally trying juice. You wouldn't think that. I think of kids, loving juice, but it was a new color, it had a new look, a new smell. So finally she tried juice this week and it was using a silly straw. So just kind of using something new that was fun and she could see it go up in the straw. Just get creative with how you're presenting these things to your kids, and like I said, to give that sense of ownership at the table. There's also a cookie cutter there.
I
Yeah.
have to add something to this this week, and I have learned so much from Karen. I am um, kind of the lucky insider here that's helped her create the content for all of her classes. But I have to share that this week, um, the the muffin pan has really worked for us. I was lucky, and before we went into this isolation, I took Karen's picky class, and so I've gotten a lot of time here to actually do those strategies. But the muffin pan, I just was struggling the other day for, I guess I was tired of like, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And so I just put out for both of my girls. My girls are 3.5 and almost 18 months. And I just have been doing that every day. And around 9:30, I will put the tray out and put some of those safe preferred foods, goldfish in our case. And I put mango in it this week. It hasn't gotten eaten. In fact, the youngest was like taking it out, but she was touching it. And according to Karen, that's a win. Um, and so I just want to share that. So if you guys have a muffin tin and don't feel stressed. Like the first day I was like, I have to have 6 different snacks. Each can have 2 holes. But then like by today, I did raisins, a pear, and some goldfish. And so trying to put like the pear was new and they loved it. Um, anyways, so making it fun. I just had to add that because I know that wasn't in our original picture. So we share this slide in our picky class. We may have to update it with that muffin tin because it's a winner.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. And there's two things you just said that I want to focus on, and then we're going to move on to actual food choices this week, since we all have some limited choices this week, um, unless you stocked up a while ago. But one thing you said was that touching that mango was a win, and it is. So I just want to quickly tell you that about all these small victories. So a lot of parents will say, "Well, yeah, I've given them, green peppers 10 times and they haven't eaten them." But then when I start asking questions, I find out, well, the first time they wouldn't touch it, had a tantrum, and we had to end the meal. Maybe the second time they picked it up and threw it on the floor. That means they touched it. The third time they picked it up, smelled it, and said, I don't want that. That means that they picked it up and smelled it. So they're getting that exposure. So it might not feel like a victory, but I want everyone to step back and think of all the things that your kid is doing with the food and all the ways that they are interacting with the food. Because in order to pick up a food, take a bite, and swallow it, for us as adults, we know social cues and social appropriateness. But for kids, they haven't learned all that yet, and their sensory systems are learning those foods. So first you're gonna touch it, then you're gonna maybe smell it. You want to look. First, they might just be looking at it, saying, "What is that?" They might taste it, touch it to their tongue and put it down and say, I don't like that. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, they don't like mango, I'll never serve it again. It just means they might mean something more like, my sensory system doesn't know that flavor, doesn't know that texture, and this is new to me. And there's so many things right now in my life that are new to me. I don't want to try this right now. So that might come out as I don't like that. So keep offering these foods. I need to look at the research, but I've heard I have a supervisor that from years ago, kind of a mentor that said you have to try a food 42 times before you can decide if you really like the flavor, texture, and to decide if you like the food or not. So I always thought that was interesting. So that was one thing, is the small victories. And then the other is you felt like you had to have like 6 snacks. So when you build a snack or a meal, I like to have 2 or 3 things on the plate. If it's like a big meal that you've cooked, maybe 4, but any more choices can overwhelm some kids. Now, some kids might be fine with 5 or 6 items on the plate, 5 or 6 different choices of what to pick. But if you are, especially if you're presenting new foods, or just for meal times in general, I recommend like 3 things on the plate, give or take one, depending on what it is. We get into plate building and everything really in depth in our picky class, but since we have limited time tonight, that's what I'll say for that. So this week we're getting creative. I have some meals that I have made most I've made 3 of these this week so far, and they only have 3 ingredients for each of these. And I'll go over kind of why I chose these meals. The first one is boxed rice. We just had this for dinner tonight. Zatarain's boxed rice with a green pepper and some sausage. Now, um, I know that everyone's kind of limited choices, so that's why we chose 3 ingredient meals for tonight. So this is a great choice because you have 3 different textures and 3 different flavors. And I think I have a carb in all of these because for some reason with toddlers, carbs seem to be those safe foods. So, and this is just for our family. We had boxed rice, we had cut up a green pepper in it and put some sausage that we got from the butcher's market, which was a great experience. I'll tell you about in a few minutes. But so that was an easy meal that we made. And the reason I made that is because my daughter's safe food is rice, like I said. Now she prefers white rice. She said the boxed rice was too tasty, but it did. The rice that came out of the pot looks like rice. It's the same texture as white rice, and it just had a different flavor and a different look. But she did take a few bites and was full enough from that to go to sleep tonight. So the next is just rice, chicken, and a veggie. Now you can go in your freezer these days and pick out whatever's in there. I'm sure you have some frozen veggies, hopefully. So any vegetable there. But again, all of these have just 3 things on the plate. So the reason I chose this one is because a lot of kids, I tried to pick things that I hear from my clients and parents that I work with that a lot of kids like. So, like I said, rice and chicken are foods that a lot of kids like. So, if you want to, you can use your language a little liberally here. So sometimes I'll tell Bailey that we made special chicken nuggets tonight because she likes chicken nuggets, but she doesn't necessarily like grilled chicken. So you can kind of use your language creatively. I say this all the time, just as a side note, if you're giving your kids pouches, um, I love when they're served in a bowl with a spoon, but for an example of using language creatively, I like to say, "Oh, here's your applesauce pouch," or "Here's your apple and mango pouch," or "Here's your butternut squash pouch." So you're still giving your kid the pouch, but they are getting familiarized with those words, and those words like apple, mango, butternut squash have just become safe words for something they're eating, to make that connection of, oh, I'm eating mango right now. Okay, they might not be getting the texture and the look of a mango, but they're getting the flavor. So just kind of using your words to explain to your kids what they're eating. So in number 2, kind of meal number 2 here, you're saying that they're having chicken nuggets. It's not really chicken nuggets, but it's the same taste as a chicken nugget. It's just a different texture. So you can kind of get a little bit creative there to help your kids with that kind of thing. So the next is tortilla, chicken or black beans and cheese. This is just a glorified. This is just chicken quesadilla. It's just written out in different in different, kind of deconstructed. So sometimes it's helpful to use deconstructed meals as a bridge to together. So if your child is really into cheese, but not yet tortillas or chicken with or black beans, you can do cheese on the plate, chicken or black beans on the plate, and tortilla on the plate. So they can kind of try things separately. You don't want to stay on this step for too long though, because you don't want your child to get used to only eating the cheese or only eating that stuff. So again, in the Picky Piggy class, we talk about how to bring all that together and kind of how to do that. But this is a great example of a meal. And if you need to serve it deconstructed, you can do that if your child is kind of hasn't really got to the point where they're eating all of this together yet. So the lentils, sausage, and onion. This is just delicious soup, guys. This is just for you. If you are struggling with what to make and you don't have a lot in the pantry, lentils are a great, excuse me, a great simple food. This is a soup that we made the other day. And again, it's got that meat in there. So you can substitute this for, you could do like a pulled chicken or ground beef meat or protein. So we've done it with sweet potatoes before. So even if you make a soup that say has lentils and sweet potatoes and onions in it, ooh, that sounds so good. If sweet potato fries are a safe food for your kid, you can pull out, you can give them soup and maybe just put the sweet potatoes on top and say, oh, look, here's some sweet potatoes and some lentils underneath. So you're giving them that safe food. You don't have to make a separate dinner for the kids and for you. You can give them this, but have that safe food incorporated into your meal so that you can use the language that your kid's familiar with to eat what you're making them for dinner. And then just another idea could be breakfast for dinner. You could make eggs. I'm not sure. I'd love to hear if anyone's kids kind of what your kids like to eat for breakfast, but you could make eggs with toast. It could be avocado toast if you're lucky enough to have fresh avocados right now, and hash browns or something else, bacon, whatever you want for breakfast. And again, breakfast for dinner is another way to just have a deconstructed meal. And again, in our Picky Piggy class, we talk about how to incorporate all of that together to get your child a little bit more comfortable with all that. But these are just some simple meals I thought might be helpful for you guys if you're meal planning with kids who are selective at this time. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Catherine, do we have any questions so far, or do you want me to keep
Nothing's
going?
been quite yet. So
Okay, let me talk about real fast while anyone's thinking, if you're coming up with questions. Um, a concept that just I find resonates with parents is your kids have these safe foods and you're looking for ways to branch out of them. You might say, okay, well, my kid likes, um, you know, tortillas, but not chicken or cheese. So, like, how do you break out? How do you get to the point where you are incorporating these foods together? Um, So a way that I like to something that resonates with a lot of parents is what I say is to just break up that routine. So again, if you're only serving them deconstructed meals, they're going to get used to just having tortilla. So maybe next time you serve them a tortilla, just tweak it a little bit. If a tortilla is a safe food, next time maybe put a piece of chicken on the tortilla before you fold it in half. And what will probably happen is your toddler will get their plate, they'll open the tortilla and say, oh no, there's chicken. And you can say, oh, that's okay. You don't have to eat it. You can just move it if you want. They'll move it and go on with their lives. They might say, the tortilla's dirty now, and they might pick around it, but that's okay because when they pick around it, they'll get still some of those chicken juices that were on the tortilla. So the way that we help our kids branch out is taking those safe foods and just tweaking them a little. So I told the story in our Picky Picky class last time we taught it, is that I had a friend who had their kid that had fruit snacks at 10:30 every morning. That was his snack. That was his routine. And she was saying, well, I mean, I'm fine with it, but I'd like to kind of branch out a little bit. So I said, great. So that's his routine right now. He says, Mommy, I want fruit snacks. Okay. So let's still give him those fruit snacks, but let's change it just a little bit. Get him a little out of his comfort zone, but not so much that he's going to feel uncomfortable to the point of a tantrum. So instead of just giving him the bag of fruit snacks, what we're going to do is open the bag of fruit snacks, put it on a plate next to some apple slices, put it on a plate next to some crackers. He's still getting that fruit snack, but kind of the first step is just getting him a little out of his comfort zone, changing it a little bit. You can still have those fruit snacks, but let's do it differently this time. So with this meal number 3, you can still have your tortilla, but we're just going to put a piece of cheese in the middle. And if they want to move it, that's fine. If that boy just wanted to eat the fruit snacks and not the crackers, that's fine too. But what's happening is we're just kind of changing the routine a little bit and getting them a little bit out of their comfort zone so that once they're comfortable eating the fruit snacks with the apple slices on the plate, then maybe we give them apple slices and fruit leather instead of fruit snacks. Or, just kind of tweaking things a little bit so that they're out of their comfort zone, but not so much that they're feeling uncomfortable or to the point, like I said, of having a tantrum. So,
Yeah. We actually did that this week. So this morning we had pancakes yesterday and I had made a few extras. So we had leftover pancake, which is such a safe food in our house for breakfast.
great.
And I wanted to expose them to grapefruit. And so my youngest is just way more adventurous. She's younger. So she still does a lot more than our older sister, but older sister, the juice was on there and she moved that grapefruit right off her plate. But then as she was like eating the pancake, I thought of Karen because I was like, haha, you are eating the grapefruit juice and you
A
don't
little
even
taste
know
of
it.
it. Yeah.
So once again, a small victory. And then my little, she actually stuck a piece. I had kind of just quartered it. I didn't really know how to serve grapefruit to little kids. So I quartered it like an orange and she stuck it in her mouth a couple times and was experimenting with it. So that was a huge win for us. So
I'm glad to hear that.
these strategies really do work. And, I have to be thankful for this time. I know that's such an uncertain time for all of us, but it's been nice to have some of these strategies to implement. And that's why I wanted you to get on tonight to talk about some of them. Ooh, we got a good question.
Okay.
So, um, love these ideas on how to incorporate other foods. My daughter used to eat anything, and then she turned 2. Oh no, so you're telling me my 18-month-old might not always do it? She will be 3 in May. So she almost always eats rice and black beans. She is more open to exploring new foods during lunch and snacks, but not really at dinner. Is there a rhythm when you incorporate new foods while keeping comfort foods, like every meal? Or is it okay in my situation to try at lunch and snacks and then progress to dinner?
Yes, I love what you are serving right now with this question because you know your kid and you know that dinner is a hard time for them. A lot of kids, dinner is their hardest meal because it's before bedtime and they've had the whole day. They've been so good all day and they get to dinner time and they're just like, okay, let's just eat, do tub time, and go to bed. So I think that yes, and tell me if you need to rephrase the question, Catherine. But I think what you're asking is there? You said is there a rhythm? So you're asking if you should. I'm answering that I would recommend probably trying those new foods. Yes, at breakfast. I would rock the boat at breakfast and lunch first and see how that goes, and maybe keep dinner in how your routine is going. And I would start tweaking things and kind of, like I said, get your kid out of their comfort zone, starting at breakfast and lunch, their best meals of the day, so that you're kind of less likely to, you're more likely to have a positive mealtime experience if you kind of set your kid up for success by rocking the boat when they're having their best meal of the day. Is
Well,
that,
and
does that answer
isn't
the question?
that, yeah, I think that probably doesn't. And oh, she says thank you. So, I think Karen, that kind of goes to the effect. I think we've talked before, like the sleep training thing. If you did sleep, whatever way you did it, you of course did it it's always recommended the first nap of the day and right when they go to bed. Like, don't sleep train in the middle of the night, because that's like the worst time. So, weren't we talking about this?
We were talking about life factors the other day at our picky picky class and how when you are, say you've just had a baby last week, you're not going to sleep train your kid the week after you had a baby because there's enough going on. So again, it's kind of the same concept. If your child is sick, they're going to want more comfort foods. If you've just had a baby sibling, then you're going to kind of ease up on this for a little bit. So yeah, if your kid is sick or something like that's going on, then you would want to kind of stick to the comfort foods. But in this situation, I think yes, that applies. That um, like I said, for their best meals of the day would be when you would try to rock the boat a little bit.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be every meal either. If you're going to start implementing some of these strategies, because trust me, it just hasn't been this week. Tonight, I think we had quesadilla and applesauce, and guess what? Those are two preferred foods, but I was on a phone call and dad was doing dinner, and that's just where we were. So if that offers you any reassurance, I learned it from Karen.
That's a very important point, Catherine, and we'll kind of close with that. That unless there's another question, that excuse me, the you want to. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought because I'm hearing my toddler from the other room as we're talking about headstrong children, and
So
that's kind of what's on my mind. Yes, but you don't want. So what I was going to say was read your child's cues. So if you're seeing some pushback and say you've kind of every meal for a couple days in a row been challenging your kid, if you start to see something like they are hesitant to get in their booster seat or high chair, if they are resisting meal times all of a sudden, think about the cues your child is giving off, and if it's kind of any changes that you've made. Hopefully, you won't see this, but if you know your kid best, so sometimes when parents try too much too soon, you might see some pushback, and in that case, it would be very appropriate to just kind of ease back and maybe do breakfast and lunch just how you always have been doing it for a whole day, for this child in particular that we're talking about. If dinner is a difficult meal, or if they struggle at dinner, do their day as you usually do, and then maybe once they've kind of come back to center the next day, maybe for breakfast, put that grapefruit on their plate and challenge them a little. And again, even if they pick it up and throw it away, at least they touched it, maybe got some of the juices on their pancake.
I know. I was trying to make her squish the little, it's actually like a pleasure to like squish little beads, or I don't know what you would call it, the little pieces of citrus. But anyways,
Yeah.
Amanda just said that her husband definitely has less gumption to approach the new food issue, and that's the same. But I actually have something for you. So I promise tonight, like the approach tonight, we just want it for Karen to get on. She's going to do a Q&A again on Wednesday night. So if you want to come back on and have any questions, or if you tried any of these strategies and want a little bit more information, feel free to register for that one. And I'm asking people to put their questions in prior so we can have a chance. But we did decide today that Picky is going to go virtual. We were really unsure. We wanted to address our expectant parents, but we did decide that this class material was really important, and that families could use this help. And just from my personal experience, I'm able to implement some of these strategies because it's giving me something positive to focus on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so, Amanda, for your husband, if you guys do the class, we don't typically do it virtual, but how we're going to have it, it's like on your own. We're going to do it in chunks that you can watch on your own time, meaning that not only you, but your husband, if your mom watches your kid, have her watch it too. And then we're going to get together and do a live virtual Q&A. So like after you viewed the whole class, then you can get on and ask questions specific to your child to Karen. So anyways, I just want to put that out there that typically we don't have it virtual, very much an in-person class gal. I think this is best taught in person, but it might be a time where both you and the hubs can get on and watch it. I'm actually excited because my husband didn't get to come with me to Picky, and he's been watching me implement these strategies, and he's picking up on it. And I'm trying to talk him through it, but once again, like I feel like such a jerk because I feel like I'm trying to manage him, and that's not how I want to come off. I want to come off as a team. So, soapbox done. I promise this was not an advertisement. I hope that you guys got a lot from Karen. Karen, any last minute thoughts before we let everybody go?
Yeah, just grocery pickup is crazy right now, I realize. But if you're looking for those staples in your kid's diet, if you're looking for those safe foods, and maybe they only have a couple right now, I know of Amazon Fresh and Harris Teeter and Lowe's Foods Pickup, and you can also go to, some restaurants like have pickup right now. You don't want to be in large groups, of course, but Catherine told me about the butcher's market I went to the other day and got some meat, which was really delicious. They brought it right to my car. I had my gloves on and opened the window this much and was like,
Mhm.
in the trunk. They were
If
very
you're
sweet.
local to
Yeah.
Raleigh area, all the butchers markets, and you can order it online. And this is my tip for this pickup. If you haven't noticed, Amazon Fresh is full all the time. So is Harris Teeter. The dates have been a week out. Lowe's Foods. I feel like this is a small enough group that I can tell you all that Lowe's Foods has been the ticket. We don't have a subscription there, so it's $5 a pop, but it's
Worth
worth
it
it.
right
We're
now.
not having to go in. And so anyways, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
all
Great.
so much for joining us tonight. Hang in there and keep an eye out for some free, continual to be free. Like I said, we are going to start gearing up to do some of our regular classes just so we can continue as a business, that we can support Karen and our other educators. And we're also going to be donating some of our proceeds to some of the brick and mortars around here. So Little Doodles is one of our friends who's unable to be open right now. And so some of our proceeds from classes will be given to them to put towards their monthly expenses until they can be back open. So all that being said, y'all have a great night. Thank you. Bye, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.